Okay, we talked about the three stages of the production process: tracking, mixing, mastering. And real quick, I just want to make one more comment, and that's that those processes aren't necessarily set in stone, like in the difference between them, especially the first two. With different kinds of production, the tracking and the mixing phase can be happening simultaneously. That's kind of the point I wanted to make. For example, in my own solo stuff, I'm being the engineer and the artist. And so oftentimes I'll lay down a few sonic elements and I really like how they're sounding. I'll start doing little mixing tasks while I'm tracking. So I just wanted to say those two can blend. The mastering phase usually doesn't blend with the other ones because that's like a decided final phase of finishing the album. So just real quick, wanted to say that sometimes you can track and mix at the same time. So, real quick before we sign off for Fall Break Video Series Session Time Season Experience, I just wanted to take you through a little bit of theory about panning. So we're going back into phase two, the mixing phase, but like I said, you can start kind of panning stuff if you're the one tracking or whatnot. But when we get into the mixing phase, we start worrying about panning and trying to create a stereo image. So this is not something, this weird drawing here, it's kind of cryptic looking right now. It's not a rule, it's not something you absolutely have to follow, but this is just kind of an idea of a basic panning scheme that I really like. It's kind of something I lean on and might just like try first and foremost and then try other experimental things. So I just wanted to share this with you a little bit with panning. A lot of the times I take these two circles here, and this is me visualizing the stereo image. So I'm just imagining all the sonic elements in my mix in the right to left panning scheme, and I'm kind of visualizing him. For some reason, it really helps me to visualize it like this. So I'll think about these two circles being like the snare and the kick drum of my mix. I always keep them pretty close to the center, especially you'll notice I've got the kick drum right in the center because you really want that to move the whole mix and be the foundation of the whole mix. But then right here, this big star, I bet you can think of what that is now that I've introduced you to this. That's the vocal, especially if you have a song that is a real songy song. You know, it's less of an experimental piece or whatever. It's more of a straight ahead song. You always want your main vocal right in the center. And that's just because no matter what you're listening to, whether you're listening to the song in a car where you have a big stereo image because you're in the middle of two speakers, one is on either side of the car, you want that vocal to be right in the center so everybody can hear it, everybody can sing along. If you're listening in headphones, you want that vocal just right in your face. I put this little rectangle here to kind of represent the bass guitar because I also usually keep the bass guitar, or maybe it's synth bass, whatever you're using to create the bass notes of your song. I usually put that pretty close to the center, but almost nothing should be at like absolutely zero panned. It's kind of nice to have, for example, maybe the vocal is like 1 or 2 to the right or left. Same thing with the kick and snare and bass. Snare I'll actually usually do like 10, 5 or 10, a little bit out of the center, but still in the center, so it's driving the song. And then all these other little circles and squares are your other stuff, right? So let's say this is a acoustic guitar rhythm track. Over here you've got a keyboard track, maybe some chording keyboard. Then there's this lead electric part that's happening repetitively throughout the song. I really want it to stand out, so I'm going to put it over here at like 80 to the left, you know? So you can decide on a 1 to 100. See, this is 100 left and 100 right. You can decide on a 1 to 100 scale how far everything is panned. So if this is 1, this is 3, maybe this is 5 to the right, your vocal is 2 to the left maybe, or the right, doesn't matter, you know. But let's say you want something to pop out of the mix. A really easy way to make it pop out of the mix is to pan it to one ear. So when you're listening in headphones, you've got your vocal right in the center and your kick drum right in the center, but then that lead guitar part is coming out of one ear in particular. So, maybe this is some other element. Maybe this is a lead violin line. I love for those to pop out. So again, this is just an idea. This is not a rule scheme that you absolutely have to follow. In fact, I love when people do experimentation type stuff with panning. And back in the day, when stereo first came out, because things were always recorded in mono back in the day, when the technology of having two speakers, meaning stereo, came out, they were doing all sorts of wild stuff with stuff like listen to Jimi Hendrix, the Jimi Hendrix Experience albums. The drums are like over here, like the whole drum set is over here. Jimmy's voice is over here, and the lead guitar is over here. And that's just because they were experimenting. They were just trying something new, right? So there are no rules. It's just about understanding that you can manipulate these things, understanding the effect that they have on the listener, so you can then make choices, artistic choices, about how you want the listener to experience your song. So this is panning, and that is part of the mixing process. And this is a general idea of a stereo image. And with that, I will leave you to your fall break. So this stuff and that I just covered in these videos will be on quiz number 4. The 3 stages of the production process, which are tracking, mixing, and mastering. And some of the stuff that I talked about within there. The 2 phases of the first phase, tracking. First stage is called tracking. What are the 2 phases in there? Overdubbing is second. I just got them out of order. I'm just confusing you. Tracking. Within tracking, you've got basic tracking and overdubbing. There you go. Talking too fast. Number 2, mixing. You're thinking about panning, EQ, compression, volume balance. Then number 3, the 3rd phase of the production process, mastering, where you're looking for consistency. You're bringing everything up to radio volume, and you're deciding the space between tracks. Yeah, there you go. All right, happy fall break. I hope you had a great fall break if you're watching these on the Tuesday before class, and I'll see you on Zoom on Tuesday.